I'm delighted this afternoon to be with Gavin Gallagher of EastPoint. So Gavin introduced or connected with me last year. So massive thanks to Gavin for taking time out. And as I say, I visited EastPoint late last year. I didn't think it was going to be one of my last flights for quite a while, but it has been. Um, so beautiful airport, Dublin Airport, amazing architecture. In fact, Gavin, that's your background. I love. I think it's T2.
Yeah,
Um,
T2, the second terminal. Yeah.
I'm not sure who the architect is behind that particular project, but I think the taxi driver told me it's even more amazing at night time.
It's all
Uh,
lit up. Yeah.
yeah, so beautiful, beautiful. Structure T2. I was really amazed, to be fair, because I'd never noticed it before. Literally, I've been to Dublin Airport before. I have to admit, in fact, twice last year. In fact, I was flying 6 times last year or 7 times, and this year I've flown only once. So, but that's how it goes. Look, we're off to a flying start in this interview as well. So massive, massive thanks for taking part, Gavin.
No,
Um, for those listeners who don't know, EastPoint, it's about 41 acres, office park, a bit like Stockley Park in West London. And as I say, in terms of the office park, it's about a 15-minute journey from there, maybe less, to Dublin Airport. So, Gavin, you're going to be with us twice this coming week. Well, you've been with us today, first of all, the Monday session, but you're going to be on the Friday session, Friday afternoon. I was keen just to do something on Friday because I've seen a lot of fluff out there. There's some great stuff as well. Don't get me wrong, but there's a bit too much sales orientated information. You can understand it at these times, but sometimes it's keen to be a creator rather than just a listener as well. So I'm delighted you're going to be on the call on Friday afternoon, 2:30. And Friday is going to be a really important time for you because of your podcast, which is coming out this week as well. Do you just want to explain to the listeners a little bit about your
correct.
podcast?
Yeah. Well, the area, I mean, obviously it's all about real estate, but the three areas that I kind of focus on are innovation, inspiration, and impact. And by inspiration, I mean, great architecture, and then by impact, I mean just, for example, the sustainability and all of that kind of stuff, just to kind of make sure that you leave something of an impact when you move on to the next life. But primarily the podcast is about the mental game in the real estate business. And I've been through 25 years of ups and downs. I've had a couple of years of enormous success, and then I've had some very, very difficult years just caused by the 2008 financial crash. And I was riding high right up until the day that Lehman Brothers collapsed. And then I spent 6 years trying to fend off. I came very close to bankruptcy at one stage. So I have an idea of what is involved in staying kind of sane, and some strategies I've developed. So the idea of the podcast is to kind of bring people through some of those strategies and talk to other people. So it'll be a sort of interview type, and it'll be myself just talking about some of my experiences over the years, and then various strategies I've developed.
So look, I'm sure there's bits I missed about the office park in terms of the size. I mentioned 41 acres. I think there's 9,000 employees on site normally.
Yeah, it's very different at the moment, but we have, so just some of the numbers. We have 40 acres is correct. There's 37 buildings ranging in size from, I think the smallest is about 26,000 square feet to the largest is about 110,000 square feet. And then we have 50 plus corporate occupiers, and they employ in the region of 8,000 to 9,000. We don't know the exact numbers because Google and Oracle, who are the largest occupiers, they keep their cards very much to their chest, and they're not sharing their numbers. But I've worked it out.
I was going to say there was a sneaky way of working out. Maybe it's not so sneaky. I know I'm saying this live, but people talk about heat transfer. when they go into buildings and technology, which is being used more for the benefit of companies in terms of utilizing workspace to the maximum.
Yeah, there's some of that, but what I'm looking at to assess the numbers in more accurately is there's new IP tracking devices that you can attach to lampposts and stuff, and they actually pick up the unique IP signal from your phone. So every single person carries a smartphone pretty much, and every single smartphone has a unique identifier. So you can actually tell how many people are walking past this lamppost, or how many people are on the bus, or how many people are sort of passing. And based on the speed that they go past every single lamppost, you can tell whether they're walking or whether they're cycling or whether they're in a car or whether they're in a bus, because a bus tends to move in a cluster of multiple identities. So some of those techniques are interesting. I mean, that's where innovation is fascinating for me. It's how you can extract data in a way that you're not even asking people for it. It's all anonymous, but you're getting actual data that is actionable.
So your podcast, which comes out this week, just again, the title of the podcast for people to listen?
It's called Behind the Facade.
Are you able to announce some of the people who will be on the podcast in the early stages, or is that top secret at the minute?
It's top secret at the minute. I'd have to kill you if I told you.
Okay. So look, I'm doing my best for Gavin to launch that this coming Friday. So I've got an interview with Gavin, Paul Pinder from Ronald Fletcher Baker Partners. Massive thanks to Paul for taking time out on Friday afternoon at 2:30. I would do my best to stream it on this software, but because Zoom is in so demand at the moment, doesn't always stream. It streamed well today, thankfully, but no guarantees. But it certainly will be on my podcast as well, which is Brendan Speaks Property. Look, an open invitation to those of you on Monday morning. So every Monday morning, it will be the 6th week in a row. I think it's the 6th week in a row. Delighted that Gavin will be joining Adam Lawrence, Stephen Johnson, Manish Kataria, and Jack Jiggins is going to be chairing that particular panel. And that panel is focused on the economy post-COVID-19 and specifically the property market. So look, it's one of the most challenging times in property, not just in the UK, Ireland, and it's great to get a wider perspective than UK. So Gavin, you bring international experience, not just from Ireland, but you, if I remember rightly, reading in your biography, the Middle East and Spain you were involved with back in, I think, the 1990s. Have I got that right, or 2000s?
It's I moved to the south of Spain. I bought a shopping center development opportunity, and that was around 2008. I moved, and then the entire economy collapsed there in Ireland as well. So I went to Dubai around 2010, and then around 2011, I went to Africa for a period of time, to Ghana, to build out an office building there. And then I went to Qatar. So I was living in Doha for 18 months. And then I moved to London. And then I came back to Dublin when everything had settled down and it was back to normal.
I'm shaking my head because Spain, I can understand. You know, some people do talk about the systems being different. I've never spent a significant time in Spain. I've, a few months from, or a month for the longest period. But I do love Spain, and I've been there many times. The other countries must be very, very difficult to establish businesses, particularly in the Middle East, I would imagine, or Africa.
Yeah, Africa particularly, but also where it's difficult usually is the biggest opportunity. So if you, if you've got the tenacity to kind of battle on through all those difficulties, there's massive, massive opportunity. I mean, if you just look at the population growth predictions that they have for places like Nigeria will have a population greater than the US in 20 years' time. So when you look at it like that, it really gives you an idea of just the scale, and they're such a underdeveloped nation that everything that we take for granted, all of that has to be developed over the next 20 years. And it's the same with places like Ethiopia. There's 95 million people living in Ethiopia. So huge economies, but extremely basic in many respects. And so that opens up a lot of opportunities. So we built a bank headquarter building for Standard Chartered Bank in Ghana. And what they were particularly keen for was that this was not going to be some third world kind of rate office building. It had to be of the same standard as they had across the world. So executives that were working there were working in the same conditions as they could expect to work in America or Asia.
Sorry, Gavin. I was just watching myself on Facebook there, just checking if we had any comments or anything. Also noticing that I'd put on a little bit of weight, COVID-19. You're extremely fit or quite fit. It's all relative, of course. You're very much into working out. I know you love running.
I think it's all part of the mental game. We were talking. I mean, I mentioned that the podcast is about the mental game, and I think this is a business that has a lot of ups and downs, and you can go through a couple of years of tremendous success and then suddenly find that you're fighting for your survival. And so your mental game is super important. And one of the things that keeps me from kind of losing focus is just the exercise first thing in the morning. So I have a kind of a fairly rigid routine that I do 7 days a week, and I get out and I try to be running at about 6 in the morning. And I've been, because of COVID-19, my gym has closed. So I've been putting the extra time into just getting out and running. So yesterday I did 11 miles of a run, and I try to do it often because I just think I just come back in with a lot more energy than I would if I don't do the exercise.
No, I take that on board, and listening to what Richard Thorpe was saying to me last week, who at the same time is training for his marathon. So look, obviously you're going to be joining us on Monday morning, talking in much more depth about the economy post COVID-19. Yes, there's huge challenges. Where do you see the opportunities? It's interesting. I have to admit, sometimes I forget about what you've done in terms of your bio retail. Retail, some people would say, is certainly going to be one of the sectors which is going to be significantly changing post COVID-19, or it's already changed. But in terms of online retail is strong, therefore industrial is going to be one of the growth sectors. What other sectors? There's lots of question marks about student let, for example, because students going to university, particularly from overseas. So where do you think the opportunities are going, like commercial or residential?
Well, I mean, I think it's, first of all, you kind of start with a balanced portfolio is useful. I mean, we've got a plot of land with permission for about 105 units, and we plan to build those units and hold on to that as an investment. And because having that kind of 100-unit residential income flow, there's not the same kind of ups and downs as you might have when you have a single occupier who maybe goes bust because he just happens to be in the wrong industry. So I think it's important to have a range of different sectors in your portfolio if you can afford that, obviously, depending on the size. But the areas I definitely see, I think every retailer now, even the ones that were resisting it, realizes that you're either in a digital online store format or you're out of business. And so I was saying to you a little bit earlier that my sister has a small online business, and she's just absolutely out the door with orders. And so at the same time, you've got other people that might have decided to sell the same products as her, but through a shop down in the nearest village. And those same people are experiencing a completely different COVID-19 because they happen to go for bricks and mortar. So I think everyone is going to suddenly move to an online business, and that's going to mean that everybody needs to have some kind of storage facility. So I do see industrial and warehousing, although I do think depending on the sector that you're in, you could find that you are impacted. I mean, if you're supplying the hair salon sector or the gym sector, you're going to be suffering just as much as them.
Well, you say that. Sorry, Gavin, I don't want to challenge you too many times because your knowledge is so vast compared to mine. But when you say gym, home gym probably hasn't had it as good for a long, long time, you
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely. And then I mean, the fastest growing companies in the world, Peloton, which sells the bike and you do your own home workout. I mean, those guys are going to do incredibly well during this. So I do think that it's going to. I mean, there's a lot of memes going around about who caused you to adopt a digital approach. Was it your CEO or your CTO or COVID-19?
Mm,
And pretty much everyone has COVID-19 has caused everybody to relook at their business model. And the fact that we have this uncertainty until a vaccine has been found and has been widely sort of delivered to everybody, I don't think anyone can take for granted that once this thing goes back to normal, that's it, you're in the clear. It's not going to go back to normal because we could have a second wave. We might have to go through a lockdown in November. Who knows? I mean, this is the sort of scary thing about it. And there's a lot of people who are holding on for dear life that their business survives until the lockdown is open, only to find that maybe it comes again. So I think everyone has got to move now to a digital model. So that is going to change. And I mean, in our business park, I mentioned earlier, we have some companies that are serving the travel industry. We've got some that are serving the advertising industry, both badly impacted. But we also have a gaming company that is, he's looking for more space. They're trying to like double the size of their office. And so with every cloud, there's a silver lining. There's some guys are falling over, other guys are picking up the pieces and moving forward, So
mm. It's been a good time for e-gaming.
yeah,
E-gaming.
e-gaming massive. I mean, and the guys that created Fortnite, it's quite incredible. I mean, I've seen these. My own kids follow a couple of these characters, and there's a guy called Ninja, and there's a guy called Cypher PK, and these guys are playing this game Fortnite, and they are now earning 500,000 a month in income from gaming. And they've created like an online virtual kind of stadium where millions of kids are all watching, getting advertising revenue from all of the millions of eyeballs looking at it. I mean, it's just a whole different world out there. So I think I think the opportunity is really changing your mindset and saying, okay, how do I adapt my own business? Like thinking ahead the next 5 years. What is the market going to look like in 5 years' time? I mean, the main street is kind of dead at the moment, but that all has to be repurposed.
I was going to say, Gavin, people can reach you in a number of different ways. The best way to reach you is on your podcast, which will come out later this week. And just
Yeah,
to remind,
if you want to connect with me directly, I have my website is gavinjgallagher.com. And the J, it's important to put the J in there to find me. And then I'm on LinkedIn with the same handle, and you'll find me pretty much across the board. I also have a YouTube channel called Prop Tech TV, and if you go there, I'm uploading some content around these kind of topics. In fact, I've started putting out the talk that I gave, the keynote I gave at your last event. I've been breaking it up into smaller sort of bite-size talk chunks. Yeah, just to kind of make it was a 34-minute talk, I think, and so not too many people have the patience to watch somebody talk for 34 minutes, but 6 minutes of a certain little snippet is valuable. And
so Gavin, I was just going to say to the listeners, the podcast coming out, just to remind them, the title is
Behind the Facade.
Behind the
all
Facade.
All about the mental game.
So join Gavin next Monday morning, focus on the economy post-COVID-19. We're going to be also sharing the platform 2:30 on Friday afternoon. Delighted Paul Pinder from Ronald Fletcher Baker is going to be there as well. If I can stream it live on Facebook, I will do. So no guarantees because I'm using Zoom software. And sometimes it's fantastic and sometimes it's just being overstretched, which, I fully understand. Zoom's gone up tenfold since,
Share price. Yeah.
COVID-19. Gavin, I just want to say massive thanks for taking time out this afternoon. and
So,
thanks to the listeners as well.
not at all. Thank you, Brendan.